Imagine a contact lens that is individually designed for your patient and personalized to their unique ocular anatomy. Introducing a breakthrough in hybrid contact lens design, SynergEyes ID. Individually designed for premium performance. With SynergEyes ID, you have the ability to provide a lens modality that is suitable for the continuum of refractive error, regardless of age or disease. And your patients won't have to compromise their vision due to an undiscovered astigmatism or from lens instability. No longer will your office spend time applying trial lenses on patients, as SynergEyes ID is empirically fit, and the result is a lens that is individually crafted and scientifically proven to meet the specific visual and physical needs of your patient. With SynergEyes ID, your practice is supported by the technically advanced SynergEyes clinical team, available to assist you as needed at every stage of the fitting process to ensure that a lens is created for your patient that you can confidently say is designed just for you. Your practice efficiencies are then further enhanced with a comprehensive array of SynergEyes tools and information that educate your patients on proper lens application and removal, as well as handling and care. Imagine a world where you have the time to really connect with and partner with your patients about their eye health, treatment options, and care, involving them in a way that solidifies the doctor-patient relationship, improves overall care, and reaffirms that you were with them and part of their vision journey. Imagine SynergEyes ID.
Well, welcome everybody. It's great to have you all here. You don't have to imagine any longer because that lens is available. And I would like to thank Woo Yu to have give us this opportunity to have these webinars. Many of you joined us in the first 2 weeks of our webinars, and we're so glad to have you join us tonight. You know, a lot of you were asking specific questions on how to actually fit some of our lens designs, and so that's what we're here for tonight, to show you all about that, specifically SynergEyes ID. I'm Louise Sclafani. I'm the Vice President of Professional Affairs, and I will be moderating this session. I am in clinical practice, and I still teach at the Illinois College of Optometry. But I'm here tonight as a clinician and sharing some time with two very good friends and some amazing doctors. This Dr. Ashley Tucker is in Texas at the Bel Air Family Eye Care Center, where she is a partner. She graduated the University of Florida and did cornea residency at the University of Houston. She is where she is now an associate professor there. She's a lecturer in the Staple program, but many of you have probably seen her at some venue. She's an amazing speaker, and she does a lot of pediatric care and myopia management. So we're going to hear some of her perspectives on that. Also joining us is Dr. Aaron McNulty. Aaron is in Louisville, Kentucky. He is the past president of the Kentucky Optometric Association. He also is one of the, he received laser privileges, and he's one of the instructors for that in Kentucky. And he serves on the American Academy of Optometry Program Education Committee. And so it's really great to have both of these wonderful doctors, great parents too. We know we've talked about our kids a lot, and so it's really wonderful to have them with us tonight. So without further ado, our agenda, little introduction, as we said, just want to remind you that this is not for continuing education, but it will be very educational for you, because you will learn how to fit the SynergEyes ID. You'll hear about some the design, the fitting, some updates on the fitting, because some of you may already be fitting the ID, and then we're going to share some case reports. And we will finish with some information on myopia management with regards to this lens. So looking forward to a really great evening with you all. And those who stay on till the very end of the presentation will learn how they can win a free annual supply of SynergEyes ID lenses for a first-time fit patient. And we're going to be choosing 5 lucky winners to do this. So you got to stay on till the end, though, to learn how to do that. So Okay. Some of you were part of the GSLS launch that we had for Synergize ID in 2021. You know, we were not in person, but in January we decided we're going to get together and we're going to share this information. So some of you have been fitting the Synergize ID. Some of you might have been on the early access program, but you know, it's really great gaining traction, and we're excited to share this. The main thing I want you to take home from this lens is the simplicity of fitting it, and that it can really, it's an empirically designed lens that you will not have to do any trial fitting, and hopefully that will add to your patient ability to get in and out of the practice quicker, and for you to retain some revenue from that as well. So what it is, let's talk about the difference between this and Duet. First of all, like Duet, it is made of the same material. The gas permeable center has got a high DK. It has a silicone skirt, has the same overall diameter, and it still has those hyperbond junctions that bind the gas perm and the GP and the silicone hydrogel together. So it's a very, very stable lens and sturdy lens. It also has UVA and UV protection. So that's how it is like the Duet lens. There's a couple features that are different than the Duet lens. And the first one is the base curve, the skirt, and then the second is the skirt, and then the type of bifocal that it offers. So let's talk about those individually. So the base curve is a monocurve. It does not flatten out in the periphery. It's a single curve. And this we felt allows for better centration and distribution of the weight. Most important though, it's made to order. All of our lenses are made to order, but specifically this ID lens is made to order to keratometric measurements into the 0.812 diopter increments. So unlike the Duet lens, where they come in 0.1 increments, like 7.6, 7.7, 7.8. These can be individually designed so you can get any base curve that you would like. And the algorithm has changed for that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And I'll talk about it right now. So in the beginning, when we first started fitting this lens, some of you were used to probably fitting it mid-K and not to exceed 1 diopter steeper than the flat K. Well, after about 10,000 fits of this patient, we revised the methodology of fitting this lens a little bit to give it a better chance at the first time success of that lens, meaning the first lens that they come in to get dispensed is the one that they finish with. And so we've realized that mid-K without any cap, meaning you can go as steep as you want off a flat K, seems to be working a lot better. So we've reduced the number of remakes that you might have to do for that patient. So it's been very successful. Now the skirts are very precise. Rather than having like a steep, medium, and a flat skirt, these skirts are individually designed to match the architecture of the sclera. And what we mean by that is we know that the sclera actually has more of a linear shape to it as opposed to a curved shape. So our Duets and most of our lenses have this traditionally curved shape to it. However, the ID has more of a linear structure to it. And we found that it makes it easier for the patient to remove their lens. It's very comfortable for the lens. And it's based on the patient's HVID. So the larger the HVID, that landing zone will be a little steeper and will have a higher number. And if it's flatter, if they have a smaller HVID, they'll have a flatter skirt. And these can be modified based on if you feel like after the follow-up you need to make some changes, and really effective and very comfortable for our patients. And the most important, our extended depth of focus is the multifocal feature that we have. On the far right, we see an aspheric design, which is successful in many lens designs, but it does have a limitation as to how much add power we can get. And then a lot of traditional zonal concentric lenses that are on the market sometimes have some issues with regards to glare and halos, and centration is essential in those lenses because they have to center over the pupil. The extended extended depth of focus is a very unique design. This comes to us through a licensing agreement with the Brian Holden Vision Institute. And unlike aspheric designs where it goes in one direction, our power profile goes in, it changes its direction, whereas it starts in the center being a distance lens, and then the next zone might be the intermediate, and then it might go back to a further away distance, and then an up close distance. So it really modulates as far as the direction of the focal point. And the other thing that it does is it's not a fixed width. These modulate as well. And you might say, well, where did this come from? Well, again, with the Brian Holden Vision Institute, they, after numerous studies, computer-generated modules, and putting the lenses on different eyes and taking into account the aberrations of the natural eye along with refractive changes, they came up with this design. And it's been extremely successful in many populations. So we know that the benefits of GP is that gas permeable lenses is that we get very, very stable optics with regards to the astigmatism correction. And sometimes we know that we don't always find that astigmatism, and this lens will find it for you and correct it. There was a study in Ask Your Target Market in 2020, and it looked at over 400 soft toric lens wearers, and it asked them, how do you feel about your vision? How stable is it? How comfortable do you have? How comfortable is your vision? And 76% of them complained of having some blurry, hazy, or unstable vision. And 82% of them reported that it would last at least 10 seconds at a time. And as you know, that's not a good feature to have, especially if you're driving or you're involved in sports or performing surgery or something like that. And 40% of them said that that would last up to 30 seconds. So we know that during COVID, people were very frustrated about, did not want to touch their eyes, or even concerned about wearing contact lenses, even though we know it was safe. But the last thing they wanted to do was stick their finger in their eye to reorientate their lenses. And so, this is a driver for wanting to take patients out of toric lenses that might not offer that stability, and then putting them into a lens that might provide better stability and get to that astigmatism where that astigmatism is. 91% of them, complained about this, and they said that they would be, over 75% of them said that they would be very willing to be switched to a more stable, comfortable lens, and wouldn't mind paying more for that advantage. So, and then those patients who were switched into the ID hybrid lens noted that they were very satisfied because of that stable vision. So let's talk about how to do this fit. Basically, all you need to do is take keratometric measurements, whether it be on autocase or a topographer. You need to measure your HVID of the patient, again, the horizontal visual iris diameter, and you need to do a good stable refraction. The lenses are available in single vision plus 10 to minus 15, and a multifocal plus 550 to a minus 10. And again, that base curve can be in increments of 0.01. And it does not come with HydroPeg, but it can be if you upon request. And it also comes in a thicker jet lens. We call it the EP, or enhanced profile, if we find that the patient has some residual astigmatism. For example, if they have high amount of astigmatism where flexure might be an issue. This is the key feature we need to do, and I know that our colleagues will talk a little bit about measuring HVID. There are several different methods that are valuable to you, and one of them includes the ruler that we have, and I think Dr. Tucker will talk about that a little bit. So all you need to do is get that information, provide it on one of these tear-off pads, and hand it off to your staff, and your staff will give us a call, and customer care will design a lens for you. The alternative is you could design the lens yourself on our computer, and you could see how that lens is being determined. Some of you will like to call consultation. Some of you will reserve that for when you are having some problems with the lens, or you want to enhance or just make that lens as best as possible. And we love that because we have a wonderful clinical consulting group. These are our senior consultants. Many of you have spoken to them. I'm putting some faces to their beautiful voices, and Again, they are just a great resource for you, and we urge you to really take advantage of them. And they are the ones who kind of put together and helped us come up with the different algorithms for how we should be fitting this lens. And finally, the best thing that comes to you when you get this lens is this great starter kit. I can't tell you how patients get so excited when they see one of these. So we are going to start out with some case reports, and I'm going to have Aaron start out with his first case.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Louise. And thanks to everybody for being here. I'm excited to be able to talk with this tonight. So this is a case that turned out to be a pretty complicated soft lens and speaks to the simplicity of this design. I think the kind of the ongoing theme when I think about the ID lens is that it combines two such powerful concepts that it's, number one, it's a powerful lens that's highly customizable and performs so well. And on the other hand, it's just, it's simple to approach. And in any field, if you have a tool that combines those two things, you have a pretty attractive option there. And I think this just speaks to this. So this is a patient that was referred to me, a 35-year-old professional who's just on the computer all day long. And she was just never happy with her soft lenses. She'd been to multiple providers, multiple brands, various prescriptions, and just found that none of them were just right. And so she made her way to us just to say, frankly, I think somebody just said, I'm kind of tired of you. Just kind of maybe
you got turfed.
Maybe bug somebody else. So here's her findings. So she's up high myope. She's got a little bit of sill and an oblique axis. And you see she'd wound up just the best she could do is just in a soft lens, spherical lens. People that had tried to approach that sill before with various toric lenses. I think she had a couple custom soft lenses, but just couldn't get it. So she was just in this spherical custom lens, or the spherical lens. Here we have our topographies, which are essentially normal. On the tangential curvatures, we see a little bit of funny business. I think at this point she was in a hydrogel lens, so we attributed that to maybe a little bit of corneal edema, but an unremarkable topography, I would say. So again, it's a simple order, just keratometry values, prescription HVID to consulting. I don't think I even ordered this lens. Again, this is our staff just sends these in. We get the base curve, like Louise said, based on mid-K. And then, of course, we did have to vertex this one for high myopia. These are the lenses that the algorithm spit out. And when we placed the lenses at dispensing, they looked good, centered well with good movement. Really nothing to report there. Patient's vision was excellent, distance and near. And really, immediately when I walked into the room, she's just sitting there grinning. How do they feel? Great. How do you see? Great. You could tell that her thought was, why was this so hard for, 3 or 4 other offices, which is a very gratifying discussion to have. She really didn't require any adaptation at that initial visit. Again, the lenses looked good under the slit lamp. At the follow-up, she said when she puts them in a lot of days, 5 to 10 minutes, she can kind of feel them. They're not painful, but hey, I'm aware of them. And then she's, going about her day with no issues. I just had her put an artificial tear into the lens prior to insertion to help create a little bit of a buffer. And that was helpful for that complaint. I didn't need any modifications. Again, this was just like the Staples easy button, just stupid simple to get us kind of eased into this discussion. But again, with this lens, it was easy. It really doesn't speak to my abilities any. But
no, you're the hero, Aaron.
It made me look good.
Yeah.
In this patient's eyes and in this referring doctor's eyes, we were I personally was the hero. So the referral source in this case was just a general practice ophthalmologist in town. They do some contacts, but certainly they don't do anything that they perceive as overly complicated. Again, somebody from that office may be in this call, but if they knew how simple this was, I think they could have handled this in-house.
You're from New York City, right? You're not from Kentucky.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
No, keep going.
Just again, the takeaway here, it's simple. The case is simple, and this just underscores the simplicity of ID. It's a powerful lens that is not an intimidating lens to approach. And this, for me, this is one of the eye-opening. These sorts of cases demonstrate that this is not reserved for our, it should not have been a seventh line lens for this patient. It should have been a first, maybe second line lens for this patient. And that, that this person enjoyed the optics of the lens. And again, she was very, very pleased with the comfort, as I find many patients are. I think setting expectations is important. And we may come back to that later. But this patient was very, very happy with the comfort.
Yeah, it does surprise me that this is such a high myope, right? And I don't know why sometimes we feel like we have to keep them in soft lenses. And as you could see that, high, the decay could have been an issue with that previous lens design. The optics obviously aren't as good as GP optics. I'm sorry, when we get to those higher powers, especially, it's a big deal, not just for astigmats, but higher powers. And this is, your staff really did all the work. All you had to do is do the doctoring and talking to the patient, and saying, we've got this high tech lens for you, and we're going to make everything right. And it's a medical fit, right? This is it's over 10 diopters. It's a medical fit. And, you went specialty, but didn't take a lot of time to do that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Ashley, let's hear about your patient.
Okay, so this one is called the persistent presbyopia. I'm sure we all have our fair share of these. So next slide, please. All right, so this was a 51-year-old Hispanic male. So his primary job is working in IT. He does a lot of kind of side things. He works with children a lot, doing a lot of tutoring, but IT work is what he does the majority of the day. He was a patient of mine who basically we tried everything. He was so motivated to be in contact lenses. So we tried every soft contact lens option we could, multifocal torics, and of course, monovision, but with no success because of his working distance, needing within arm's reach to be very, very clear and no compromise there. It was a bit of a feat. Every lens we tried up to this point compromised his overall vision. So that's kind of it did compromise his overall vision, but even times when we got great distance vision, if his near vision wasn't going to cut it, he would cut that option out immediately and revert back to his progressives. So the thing that's wonderful about this patient, though, is that he was very motivated. He's the patient that whenever I had an idea or I had something new that I wanted to try, he was the first one that I would think of. So looking at his manifest refraction here, he has a funny refraction. So the right eye, he's a myopic astigmat with this funny oblique astigmatism, and the left eye kind of has an opposite appearance with the rule astigmatism. I'm sorry, against the rule astigmatism here, and just a +2 add. Then looking at his keratometry values, we do need to kind of look at these things because, he at first glance, you may think he's a little bit keratoconic, but he's not. He just has a steep K. And both his Ks in both the right and the left eye point to oblique astigmatism, but he refracts to this funny against the rule astigmatism in the left eye. So everything about his refraction and his topography was making me pause a little bit. And looking at it in retrospect, that made me realize why it was so difficult to get him in a soft toric. His HVID here, I measured with the slit left reticle at 10.8 in both eyes. So I did a few cases during the early access program using my autorefractor autokeratometer and not using a topographer. And I did that on purpose just to kind of see how some of these fits would go, especially for people that don't have a topographer, because we have lots of practices that don't have a topographer. But if you can get Ks with a simple topographical map, you really can be successful with this lens. This is basically what I did for this particular patient. But I just wanted to show you this just to show that he had a significant amount of irregular astigmatism in both eyes. So again, reminder of manifest refraction and K readings. I also was playing around during the early access program and measured HVID in 2 different ways. So one manually with my slit left reticle, and then other the other one was with my topographer using the HVID measurement there. So this is a topography from the oculus keratograph. That little blip, that green spot, is representing a dry spot on his cornea, but I wanted to just point out the HVID on the topographical map here. Same thing with the left eye. All right, so for my ordering process, I do like to get my team involved, but during the early learning process of the ID lens, I did all of the ordering myself, and I used this empirical lens calculator, which I'm a bit of an optometry nerd. I love using this calculator. It is so easy to use. Oh my goodness.
You're not a nerd. You like technology.
I do. I really
Yeah.
do. So the little drop down box allows you to order the ID, the single vision, the EDOF, whichever one you want. So you just need to pick that. It's extremely easy and efficient. I personally do not like to wait on for consultation, even if it's a minute, that's a minute I could be doing something else. So I really enjoy that I can do this on my own time. So just walking through the calculator here. So you need to put in K1 and K2. HVID is very, very important. That's a little bit out of the ordinary for us. Typically, those of us that, fit specialty lenses, we do use HVID a lot, but for those of us that are new to it, HVID is kind of one of those foreign concepts. So this lens can't be ordered properly without HVID. So please make sure that you get into the habit of doing that.
The other benefit is, I just wanted to point out, it will calculate the residual astigmatism. That means you don't have to do your thinking of how K's and refraction don't match up. It'll alert you. And then if it does alert you, don't be that nerd at night. Talk to the consultant and they'll talk you through that if they need to.
No, that's true. Once you put your sphere and your cylind, it'll automatically populate what the residual astigmatism is. A lot of us think about that ahead of time, but if you don't want to, or it's just something that's out of the ordinary for you, it tells you what you can expect. So I use my topographer to calculate data, and then I also use my autorefractor.
Man, you are a nerd.
I know, but you guys asked me for data for the EAP, so I gave it to you.
Thank you.
I ultimately decided to design lenses based on the topography, simply because the HVID I felt was a little bit more accurate using the topography versus my slit lamp reticle. All right, so here are the lenses that were populated for this patient. The dispense day went wonderfully. He was 20/20 minus, ODOS, 20/20 OU, near was also 20/20. He was ecstatic, just like Aaron's patient. I can't say that I was surprised, but I really kind of was. He was really my very first patient in the EDOF. And especially considering his history of not having success with any other lens, we were so happy together. The fit was great. The vision was great. This is just I think this might have been a video. No, this is a picture of the lenses at dispense. There's a little bubble underneath the skirt, but that is totally okay. The lens was a little centered in the right eye, better centered in the left, but the patient was comfortable. The optics were great, so I did not press the issue there.
And this goes to tell with the EDOF, it does not have to have perfect centration, unlike center distance or center nears.
Exactly. So a little bit of an over refraction, but it didn't make any visual acuity difference, especially when you're giving minus at distance. You really want to be cognizant of what that might do at near. So I decided against the -1/4 over refraction. No changes were needed for this patient. It, like Aaron said, it truly is extremely simple. We're not here to joke with you about this. Like, this patient was a one and done fit after trying probably 3 or 4 years of fitting lenses and failing. I know it's crazy. And he has been wearing lenses successfully with no issues. I've seen him a couple times since I've done this fit, and he's still happy. We've had to make little power changes over the years, but overall he's doing great.
Yeah.
Oh, and here he is. I can't say his name, but there's my patient. But due to his irregular astigmatism, fitting soft toric lenses was a beast. I mean, we're all pretty good at fitting contacts, and I knew I could tackle this, but I could not get him in something that worked. And then the EDOF came along, and I just knew that this was what he needed. It neutralized most of his corneal astigmatism, which took away the rotation factor, the fluctuating vision factor, and that is invaluable to someone who has been dying to be in contact lenses. So way to go, ID EDOF.
Well, especially those, against those against the
Against
rule
the
or just
rules, yeah.
where we're good refractionists, right? We can do this. I love refracting, I
Yes,
really do,
yes.
but sometimes we just can't pinpoint it like the eyeball can pinpoint it
Mhm,
itself. It goes right to where it should be. And again, these are 6-month lenses, and so we don't take pictures of frowny patients, but that's always nice to see that happy guy. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about evaluation at follow-up. First of all, in the chat box, there are a lot of links that we're sending you. First of all, one talking about that toric experience that we talked about. There's a fitting guide on there. There's a practice guide on there, and then there's also a myopia page, and we're going to keep putting that up in the chat so you can download that if anytime. So your follow-up, it's a typical follow-up where we're going to evaluate vision and comfort. And first of all, I would like to emphasize that when a patient does come in and you're taking all this detailed information, which is not that detailed, right? It is best that they come in without wearing any hybrid lenses or rigid lenses. They could come in wearing a soft lens, but it's best if they are a previous hybrid lens or GP lens wearer that they come in so we get some nice virgin corneas and nice virgin refraction. But I'm going to have Aaron give us some idea. What do we look for in vision, or any suggestions on enhancing vision?
Yeah, well, starting off, just kind of one of my preferences with this lens, with any lens, is first, myself and with my techs, I try to train my team to kind of read the patient. Are you walking into a happy patient, or are you walking into a patient with trouble? And let that kind of guide the approach. And this is not specific to ID, but I'm not going to walk into a happy patient, grab the occluder, and start tweaking quarters here and there. However, that being said, if we have a patient who's not like these two cases that we've presented, and you got a little work to do, so we're going to start with a spherical over-refraction at distance. So that's kind of the starting point. And obviously we're going to do that monocularly at first with plus minus a quarter and going from there. And then at near, we don't want to, we're going to switch to binocular near vision. As it says in here, loose lenses are preferred, so you're not behind the phoropter. And it's it's a plus minus a quarter. It's typically a pretty quick deal. It's helpful for me. As always, make sure we're not over modest and push a plus a quarter if they'll take it at distance. Always be careful to observe that working distance. So here we got a lap reader, but we need to know where these people are kind of working in their real world. Obviously, we're going to use that to our advantage at near. So once we've done, again, starting with sphere at distance, then moving to near, binocular at near, and then we're going to look for uncorrected astigmatism. So a lot of times the uncorrected astigmatism is going to be predicted if the Ks and the manifest don't match up. If we're going to have, if we have non-corneal astigmatism is fortunately not as common and not our friend with hybrid or gas permeable lenses.
Today they're not. Yes.
Yeah. So we should have an idea going into it whether we're going to have residual astigmatism. If we do not have a satisfactory over-refraction with sphere, then we'll look for that still, see if there's any residual there. And this is where, for me, I shamelessly lean on the consultants. The consultants know any given lens 100 times better than I do. So with questions of residual sill or anything like that, do we need an enhanced profile? As Louise said, enhanced profile is basically a thicker gas permeable lens. But if there's residual astigmatism, a lot of times the slightly thicker GP portion, an enhanced profile, a beefier GP, will help to cover some of that sill and help to eliminate it. And for me, that's been a very effective problem solver.
Mm-hmm. So Aaron, I'm so glad you said that about consultants, because there's no shame in our game. I use the consultants all the time. I think that's how I learned this lens so well, is by consulting, and I still consult to this day. So I just want to encourage everyone to use them. I email them. I personally don't call them, and they're wonderful. They're wonderful with communicating that way.
Algorithms and consultants, again, make us look a lot smarter.
They sure do.
I won't speak for you, but make me look a lot smarter than
I'm with you.
And then there's a couple other ways to, if you think that there is some lens flexure potentially because it is a higher astigmat, steepening that base curve by half a diopter we've seen has been working very effectively. And, there's another method too, and that is using the extended depth of focus low ad. So for those who have some residual astigmatism, non-corneal astigmatism, something about the EDOF might help mask some of that non-corneal astigmatism. So keep that in mind too.
We kind of sped past that slide, but that you referenced, Louise, in the first several thousand fits, there was an algorithm change for maybe a little bit steeper base curve approach on a lot of patients. That's made a nice positive improvement for me. So if there's anybody who, tried ID, heard about ID, that algorithm tweak has made a noticeable improvement in the outcomes since the early days.
Is it more so in comfort that you're using that?
Comfort and some of this residual sill. Okay. Yeah, but comfort's the big thing.
Yeah.
And it helps to center it, which helps everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then
again at near, like we said, we got to make sure that these patients are taking as much plus as they will at distance, pushing that plus that they'll accept the distance. And a lot of times, if they'll take, it might be a plus 25 and a plus 50 at distance, and bingo, that takes care of the near.
Mm-hmm.
If that does not take care of the near, then we need to see kind of how much more plus they need binocularly, see about going from a single vision to a low EDOF or a medium high, medium ad to a high ad, what have you, increasing the ad. And one strategy that's been very, very helpful for me is modified multivision. Determining eye dominance and pushing my preference, and it's in the literature, and I've kind of it's been effective for me, is that we can push a plus 75 over the non-dominant eye pretty easily without sacrificing too much in the way of binocular vision. So for me, that's been a winning strategy, as needed.
Then, of course, we want to, look at that lens in place. And again, centration is key for the vision. So, I mean, obviously vision is most important, but for the patient, ocular health is most important to us, or it's probably equal. So what we're going to do is look at the surface quality, the centration, the skirt, and the movement. Some of these patients we have to remember they often have ocular disease, right? And so we want to make sure that we're managing their ocular disease while wearing these lenses. And, we can add THP, and that might help with some of the surface quality. Ashley showed a patient with a bubbles under their skirt. And so, that doesn't cause so much of an issue, but you get a bubble trapped at the junction or under the GP. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's only going to get worse throughout the day. So try to teach your patients how to look for those bubbles. We've seen skirt discoloration in hybrids throughout the years, and I haven't seen any in ID. Well, I think I may have seen one in ID. Have you guys seen any of the skirt discoloration in the ID?
I haven't.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it would be probably the same prevalence because it's the same material, but the skirt discoloration, don't worry about it. It's embedded. It's not on the surface. It's actually something part of the lens material that happens over maybe 4 or 5 months for certain patients, and it has to do with their protein and their tears and the combination with certain solutions. So if they're, switch them to a different solution. If they're in a peroxide, switch them to a multi-purpose. If they're in a multi-purpose, switch them to a peroxide. But it typically doesn't cause problems, but the patient is aware of it. And then, we have to really look at that skirt. The top image shows a fluting and more so than the bottom image, but we do see some fluting. You see this at 9 o'clock. If you do see fluting, that's going to be uncomfortable. We do need to increase the skirt. So again, remember, increasing the number will make that skirt tighter, and it will get rid of that fluting. And it could be a result of perhaps, the HVID was measured incorrectly. So you might want to redo that, or it might just be the architecture of their sclera, where we know that the sclera is toric as well. So if it's fluting in one area, you obviously have to change the entire skirt. So it's better to go a little steeper than flatter, because a patient really does not like this fluting. It's very uncomfortable. And then looking at the base curve, like obviously we like that good centration. Poor lens centration is only going to cause poor vision and potentially discomfort. So often it's a matter of maybe we took the Ks wrong, and we will remediate that by going a half a diopter steeper, and we're using the SAM and FAP rules with that patient to modify the power. Obviously, consulting can give you some guidance, and then we want to look at that movement when we look at that patient. Again, this shows nice movement on the lens. The conj does move as well, but that's not drag. This lens is moving independently, as opposed to this lens here, where we don't have as much. Sorry, I'm having problems showing the movie. We don't have movement on this lens at all. So when we don't have movement, there's two things of thinking about it. You could say, no movement's not a big deal. And, the lens does not have to have up and down movement, because it does move in and out a bit. So, but if you don't have movement, I do suggest that you take the lens off and you stain the cornea to see what's going on underneath it. Some might say, if it ain't broke, if the patient's not complaining about it, we don't even do that. But I think it is a good idea to still look at the staining underneath it. This is the typical staining pattern if the base curve is too flat, but these patients will have a different symptom. They'll have excessive movement, some discomfort pretty quickly after wearing it, and the central staining. Again, reevaluate the Ks and the base curve, and you're going to have to steepen this. Could also be due to toxicity from solutions. I love what Aaron said about putting a little bit of saline or a multi-purpose solution in the bowl. It will squeeze out eventually, but it's a nice way of introducing the lens. Now, as opposed to this staining, I want you to look at this staining. This is at that junction of the soft and the gas perm. And you could see it's circumlinear, but it's very diffuse kind of staining. And this represents that a flat fit, and that at the edge of the lens is a little bit too flat. It's got some bearing. It's rubbing against the cornea. Again, to remediate this, make it a little bit steeper. As opposed to this staining here, which is very much more, it's again circumlinear, but it's more discrete. And this is probably the edge of the gas permeable lens, because remember, this is one single curve. And so this might be digging into the cornea. It tightens up and it takes a little longer. It's like hours of wear. They're probably going to have some injection and they're going to have some discomfort. And usually it's not moving a lot. So this is a lens that needs to have the base curve flattened by about a half a diopter. And then this is something that you might not see until you're really problem solving, because when you put these lenses on, when that patient comes in for that dispense, I typically have my patient go right to the trainer and do the insertion and removal. I typically don't bring them in the room and put some fluorescein in to take a look at it. Remember, you can use regular low molecular weight fluorescein and saline with these. You don't have to use any high molecular weight fluorescein. But if you have a problem that you just can't figure out what it is, you might want to take the lens off, put some saline in, and you'll see this double ring. And this double ring actually occurs when the lens is collapsing. And it's typically because the skirt is too flat and the base curve is too flat. So you're going to have to modify both. You're going to have to steepen both the base curve and the skirt to get it to lift away a little bit. Typically, this lens is actually easy to remove. It typically has minimal to no movement, but it gets discomfort pretty quickly. So both these will have to change both. And in that fitting guide that I talked to you about, there is a description of all these and how to fix them. And these are, different methods of taking that HVID. And I'm going to let Ashley's going to talk about this in a little bit, but the image on the right is something that one of our wonderful consultants came up with. And that is, rather than, taking time and getting nervous and shaking your ruler when you're measuring it, just take a picture of it and sit back and then take the measurement. So I'm going to let Ashley now talk about some patients that you might not think about putting a hybrid lens in, and that's kids. So here we go.
Yes. So I'm fortunate enough to work with in a practice where 50% of our patients are children. So I have lots of opportunities to test these lenses out on kids. So this particular patient at the time, she's almost 10 now, but 8-year-old African-American female, plays every sport known to mankind. She does have some significant ocular history. Her maternal grandfather has keratoconus. She does have high cylinder, but she doesn't have keratoconus at this point. She's never worn contact lenses of any kind, but because she's so athletic, she really, really wants to wear contacts. She's been in glasses since 5. Her mom, because she's new to contact lenses, would like her to be in a daily disposable, but she's open to whatever I suggest. Next.
Sorry, I'm trying to advance.
Oh, that's okay.
It's coming.
It's coming.
There you go.
There we go. So this is just my autorefractor autokeratometer, again, just showing this beautiful with the rule of astigmatism, and also proving that her Ks are actually pretty flat and not keratoconic at all. Again, HVID was done with the slit lamp reticle there. I religiously use the empirical calculator just to further encourage you to use this. There's no need to wait on hold. You can order it at your own time. I do want to point out here that because she has high SIL, the calculator automatically uses an enhanced profile lens, which makes it, like Aaron said, a little beefier. I like that term, just to kind of prevent the lens from flexing and just allowing better acuity with these high SILs. I think this patient, yeah, she has a little bit of residual astigmatism, so that enhanced profile will help with that as well. I opted against HydroPeg for her because she's brand new. She's only 8. I didn't want anything to hinder the process of inserting or removing the lens, because HydroPeg, as wonderful as it is, it's very slippery. So it can really hinder someone from being able to take the lens out successfully. Again, mom wanted a daily disposable, but because this is really the best option for the patient, mom was all in. These are the parameters that we decided to order based on the calculator. Her acuity was really good, 20/25 plus, with each eye individually, and both eyes open 20/20. I'm with Aaron with not nickeling and diming over refractions. I knew I maybe could do a little bit better on the acuity, but she was so excited to be able to see and be in contact lenses for the first time that I didn't really over refract at this visit. The lens was well centered with appropriate clearance and movement. This case in itself was very rewarding, but probably one of the most challenging when it came to emotions. We had a roller coaster of emotions because she saw great and she was so motivated, but she had a time with insertion and removal. I could get it in and out very easily, but she just couldn't. It took 3 visits for her to come back and do additional training, but ultimately she got it. So I'm excited to share that about her. So next slide. So this is just some of the trouble we had with this patient. We tried the tripod method, which is using 3 fingers and balancing the lens on 3 fingers. We also tried the plunger method. Ultimately, she landed on the tripod method because it just gave her better proprioception. Like, she could feel what she was doing. And this particular visit was really cute because she had just put on these little press-on nails, and she was quite heartbroken when I told her she had to take them off when we decided to try the tripod method. So
You're so mean.
I am terrible. But she asked me if she could leave on her pinky finger. So I have a little green circle showing that she left on the pinky finger, but we had to put a pile of the press-ons next to her so she could use them later. This is a video that Dr. Sclafani insists on showing, but this is—
I love this video. If anybody can do this in front of their patient or on a screen, it's amazing.
Yeah. So
hello, my name is Dr. Ashley Tucker, and I just want to offer a little bit of advice on what to do when you have that patient who struggles with insertion and removal. This lens can truly be life-changing. It can offer superior vision and comfort over any other contact lens on the market. I know because I wear and love this lens, so I want to offer it to any patient that's eligible for it, and I want them to be successful. So in one of my cases, I had a precious little 8-year-old girl who truly struggled with insertion and removal. She kind of got insertion, and that happened after many, many visits, but removal was just very difficult for her. In her own words, the tissue technique was kind of weird. So what really resonated with her is when I took the time to put my own lens in and take my own lens out in front of her, and we kind of did it together. So sometimes you just have to get in the trenches and show patients how easy it is, how uncomplicated it can be. Even though it seems a little overwhelming at first, it's not too bad. And there you go. So hope that helps.
I love that. To do that on camera and without a mirror even, that's pretty impressive.
So during the learning process, when I was fitting this lens, I really just wanted to visualize what the vault or the clearance looks like. This lens is designed to align with the cornea. So if you're not really good at judging clearance or sagittal depth with just looking at it with an optic section, do an SCT and just see how much clearance you have. You really should be getting something that looks like this, something that's pretty aligned with the cornea. So her follow-up visit, again, she was doing really, really good. We ended up with a distance over refraction of +1/4 in each eye. I incorporated that over refraction and finalized the lenses. lenses. She's wearing the lenses all waking hours. She is ecstatic that she can wear sunglasses and not have to worry about getting prescription sunglasses. And she's being as athletic as ever with her contact lenses. So fitting children, especially fitting children in specialty designs, is very intimidating. It can be very overwhelming. And most of us probably think, yeah, no, this is not something that I would ever want to do, but it is so rewarding. Just give it a shot. Make sure you choose the right patient. This was a very mature, very motivated patient, but it can be life-changing for them, like I said in my video.
And, and if you know that it's the right lens for that patient because of the astigmatism, why deny them just because they're a kid?
Exactly.
And almost kids are easier because they don't have any preconceived conceptions. They're like, okay, if this is right, maybe it's convincing mom again. So
yes.
Yeah. And so, I want, if you could share another story about another use for this.
Sure. So this one I titled IDing Progressive Myopia. So this is really thinking outside of the box and using the ID lens for myopia management. So this is a 13-year-old Asian female, been wearing glasses since the age of 6. Back when I fit her in this lens, she had been in virtual school for the last 6 months and reported that her vision had been worsening over the last month or so. She's an avid reader, everyone in her family are moderate myopes, and she's worn daily soft contact lenses for recreation. So she's not new to contact lenses. So that's definitely an advantage. But because of the virtual school situation early on in COVID, her family was very interested in myopia management options at this point. So her manifest refraction at that visit, you can see it for yourself, a moderate astigmat, but a pretty severe myope. To be 13, of course. And this is her manifest refraction 8 months prior. So she's really progressed about a diopter in each eye in that 8-month period. So her Ks from my from my autorefractor, you can see here a little bit steep, but again, not keratoconic. And then you can see her HVID as well. This is just a map of her cornea, again, showing very myopic with regular Ks there, not to be concerned. So just to reiterate about measuring HVID, extremely important in designing the lens. So make sure we get into the habit of doing that. I like to measure HVID a couple different ways just to really test my skill. And just to have options when it comes to, like, what if my topography breaks down? I want to be able to do this different ways. So I definitely use my ruler, and I use the picture that Dr. Sclafani recommended, but you can also just use your slit lamp. You don't even have to do anything special. Just make an optic section, turn it horizontally and line it up limbus to limbus across the horizontal, and you can read off your scale. Everyone's scale may be a little bit different, but everyone has a scale that they can use to read off the number.
It's coming. Sorry.
No, it's all good. La-di-da.
This arrow just goes crazy on me. Okay, hang on. There we go. Why will it not advance? There. Okay.
There we go. So again, I used my trusty calculator. Did have to use enhanced profile lens on the right eye because of the high still. Because she had worn contact lenses before, I did opt for tangible hydropeg. That does make a noticeable difference in comfort. I hydropeg all of my lenses for myself, and I hydropeg them for any patient that I feel that it's appropriate for. So I did have to mention to the parent, and I'm mentioning to you, that this is an off-label use of the EDOF, but there is no reason why this lens really should be considered off-label. It's doing everything that we are looking for myopia management. It's correcting the myopia, and it's giving an anti-myopia effect to the retina by giving that power that we need in the peripheral retina to prevent axial elongation. So I opted to use a high ad in order to maximize the anti-myopia effect. We know from the Blink study that the higher the ad the patient can tolerate, the likelihood, the better the results. So I kind of toggle between a medium and a high here, but I went for the gusto and just gave her a high and hope for the best.
Beefy ad and
heck yeah, enhanced profile. Why not? Go big or go home, right?
Yeah.
So the visual acuity, this was actually my very first patient using the EDOF, for myopia management. So I was so pleased when I saw that her distance acuity was 20/20, her near acuity was 20/20. She was really happy. I didn't press the issue of what the patient was actually getting into to the patient. I didn't set the stage that, you might be a little blurry up close, or you might be a little blurry at distance. I didn't say anything like that. I just told her I was putting her in her lens that was going to help her visually and help hopefully reduce her myopia progression. So I didn't want to plant any negative seeds about the potential vision issues here. The lenses were slightly decentered temporally, both eyes, but there was appropriate clearance and movement. The patient loved her near vision, but reported great near vision, but noticed like a wave in her distance vision. So for those of us that fit other types of myopia management lenses, we know that the distance vision can be distorted because of the dual focus or because of the EDOF or whatever we're fitting. So that wasn't surprising to me. Just for fun, just for kicks, I don't necessarily recommend doing this, but I just did an auto refraction auto K over her lens just to see what kind of potential residual astigmatism or lenticular astigmatism or just flexure I might be getting from the lens design. I just was reaching here just to make sure. I knew it was probably the EDOF, but I just wanted to see if there was anything that I can do to improve her distance vision. So we did get -1/4 spherical over refraction, but that didn't really improve anything. That I was hoping that maybe that would decrease the wavy vision, but it really didn't. So what I decided to do was just allow her to wear the lens and then see her back for a follow-up visit. So the follow-up visit here just kind of reiterated that I was getting a little bit of an over refraction, but again, that didn't make much of a difference. But with time, the wavy vision went away. I didn't give much life to it. I just said, yeah, this is something that I kind of expect with this type of lens design, but let's just see if that goes away. And it actually did. So she wasn't complaining of any comfort issues, but I did notice a little bit of temporal injection, left eye greater than the right. But again, the patient had no complaints. But because of that temporal redness, which really bothered me and bothered her mom because her mom was seeing this every day, we decided to alter the fit a little bit. So I steepened the base curve to improve the centration, which certainly helped with the redness. Another follow-up visit, improved redness, no discomfort with the lenses, the wavy vision was gone. So because this patient is 13 with an adult prescription, with that progressive myopia, I decided to see her every 3 months just to follow her myopia progression, if any. This is what the lens looked like, beautifully centered, nice amount of clearance. That picture made the clearance look a little bit more than it was, but it was pretty aligned the way it should be. And just so we're getting close on our time here, I just want to say I've seen this patient many times. This was 2 years ago. So I've seen her 3 or 4 times since we initially fit, and her prescription has not progressed, not 1 iota, not even a quarter. I even go into these visits expecting a quarter more minus, a half a diopter minus. She hasn't progressed at all. Her axial length, which is something I monitor regularly for my patients, has remained relatively stable. So I am beyond ecstatic, and I have fit dozens of patients in this lens for myopia management since this patient. So just some closing comments on this. This one, really pushed me outside of, what I'm used to doing. I had to think outside the box. We needed a lens that corrected her myopia, corrected her astigmatism, and corrected both of those things well, and also slowed myopia progression. So this lens, the EDOF, offers all of that. This is the lens that is the answer to those patients who may not be able to wear lenses otherwise. Now, although this is off-label, it checks all the boxes for what we're looking for myopia management. And I just want to just recommend that you follow these patients as closely as you deem warranted, just to ensure that you're getting the results that you want.
Awesome. So again, I think that really reiterates that, these are developing eyes, right? And why would you not want to give them the best acuity for that developing eye? And when you could piggyback it off with the potential for myopia management, it seems like that would be a great alternative. So yeah, don't forget, we've got to give them clear vision and stable vision. And then if we can give them a lens that has this potential, it's great. So I just wanted to say a few words about the extended depth of focus and myopia management. And, Ashley has mentioned she's done many patients with this, but she's not the only one. There are a lot of doctors out there who, without us even talking about myopia management, they've decided to do it themselves. And that's because they've read the literature, They know what the evidence-based medicine shows about other non-indications, non-FDA-approved lenses for myopia management. And it all came out between the BLIMP study that Jeff Wallin put out over 10 years ago, looking at center distance multifocal lenses. And by the way, our center distance multifocal lens, the Duet, has also been used very many times, quite often by doctors for myopia management, with the benefit of getting even up to a higher add, a +5 add, and you can modify the pupil size. So there's another option there too. But we know that my site has been very successful in treating myopia management, and it's a wonderful lens for daily disposable patients. We know that, again, as I mentioned, center distance multifocal soft lenses as well as a hybrid lens can be effective for these patients. The natural view, again, while not approved for myopia management, has been used by many doctors, but their extended depth of focus is a lot different than ours. As you can see, their power profile compared to the extended depth of focus by Brian Holden is very much different. And there's some articles out there, and if you, again, in the chat room, there's some links to some of these articles about myopia management with these lenses. And in Europe, the Milo lens is the soft version using these optics, and it is approved for myopia management in Europe, but it's very successful. The way this lens works, again, is in front of the retina. All of the images, or I should say anything that you want to be focused from distance to near, has a very successful retinal image quality. And that means anything on the right side of this chart shows very good retinal image quality, because again, that's most important. It's important to our presbyopes, it's important to our kids. But then anything that is focused behind the retina, we want to have really crappy retinal image quality. And that all has to do, again, with peripheral defocus and not wanting the eye to grow to the back of the retina to expand. And so this lens has a really great power. It works on two methods by doing that. And that's one of the benefits. So again, if you compare the top one is our lens compared to some other lenses that are out there that have dual focus. Again, we have better image quality presented, and the retinal image quality is worse. So behind the retina. So that's a benefit there. So just a couple studies to show you this. This is a study that was a double-blind crossover study that looked at 35 non-presbyopic patients aged 18 to 35, and we put the extended depth of focus lenses on. There's two different designs of it, and it compared it to some of the other multifocals lenses out there, and it looked at overall comfort, overall vision, ghosting, and halos, and it scored much higher with these two extended depth of focuses. So again, you got to have clear vision. You can't just have offer myopia management. You have to have clear focus. And then this is a prospective randomized study of 508 patients aged 7 to 13. So classic study group for myopia management. And it looked at two different extended depth of focus Brian Holden lenses. And it also looked at some center distance myopic lenses who offer hyperopic defocus. And it was very successful in that it showed that let's just look at the extended depth of focus designs and compare it to the single vision controls. And in these lenses, with regards to myopia, with regards to the progression of myopia, it showed regression of 26% and 32%. So it had less progression of myopia than the single vision control did. And if you looked at the axial length progression, it showed 27 or 25%. Less progression of the axial length. So overall, pretty powerful evidence that shows that this design can be successful in slowing myopia. Again, not approved in the United States for this purpose, but it is approved overseas with the same design. And patient needs to have comfortable vision. And when you compared these extended depth of focus lenses to just single vision lenses, which you would not expect to have any issues with stability or clarity and things like that, it was very comparable, which is great. So keep this in mind. It's very helpful. It's again, happening in the real world. It's multiple practices in Europe, and they're showing success. So I'm going to conclude with a couple questions. And again, some of the tools that we can provide for your patient include, these starter kits, which they just absolutely love. We have a lot of patient materials, videos to watch prior to coming in for the insertion and removal session that you're going to have with your patient. There's lots of videos for doctors to learn, your staff to learn, your patients to learn ahead of time. Dr. Tucker mentioned several different methods, including the tripod. You could use a DMV if you'd like to. You could use a ring inserter. And then for removal, you either use your fingers or a tissue. So keep that in mind. A lot of patient materials, how to take a good HVID measurement. And then again, in that chat, there's some information in that space. We have some great peer-to-peer videos showing, why they are successful and some insights on using the SynergEyes ID lens. And one final thing, push I want to mention too is, this lens is empirically designed lens. You don't have to use trial lenses that you're going to put on one patient to another patient. But say you are using scleral lenses, or you're using some ultra health lenses, or lenses that do require multi-patient contact lenses in your practice. We do have this disinfecting kit that's available that will help you keep your lenses organized as you follow the new ISO standards, which require a little bit more stringent cleaning of your lenses. And you can ask your representative or your sales representative about this, because we are running a special where if you fit 2 VS lenses, you have the opportunity to get this kit for free. So I'm going to open it up to questions. And one of the questions that we received was, is there a limit as to the amount of corneal astigmatism that can be corrected with this lens? And I'm going to ask Ashley and Aaron if they've had, what's the most they've corrected, and if they have an experience that they would like to share with that.
I honestly don't know the answer to what the most would be. Louise, maybe you could answer that, but I know that I've corrected a lot. The key is to make sure the corneal sill and the refractive sill match. Like that's probably the biggest pearl that I can give, because I've been in situations where I've looked at a prescription really quickly and then went to go just design it. And I'm like, dang, I have too much residual astigmatism. So just make sure you eyeball that, or step out the room, or put it into the calculator before you overpromise and underdeliver there.
The way that I approach this is, and especially when I was getting to know this lens, is the conversation in the room is, I think you're a good candidate for this. After you leave this afternoon, I'm going to design the lens for you. I'll submit that design to the lab. And if they're going to have trouble making it, I'll call you.
That's a good idea.
And sometimes
you're like,
I put it all together. I'm like, I'm an idiot.
Yes, I'm so glad that happened to you too.
So then we call the patient. We just blame SynergEyes. We say, well, we had the design ready to go. They weren't able to make it. So I always hedge a little bit. I'll say, I think you're a great candidate. Let me create the design. Let me get it sent to the lab, because it happens to all of us.
It does happen.
You think, oh man, there's that parameter that I just overlooked and it's not available. I do that with every single custom or specialty lens I do now.
Yeah.
So Dr. Sclafani, what is the max sill that this lens can?
Whatever corrects. I mean, we have patients, I have patients that are like about 4.5 is probably my highest, but we hear stories of it even being steeper. I mean, I'm sorry, more sill. But remember, when you're doing it, you need to go with a steeper base curve. And that's what we found over time. I think in the beginning, when we were, because it is a mono curve, we were kind of shying away from going any steeper than 1 diopter over flat K, but don't be afraid to do that. You can go steeper to get that maximized. And there, my opinion that also on that is, 6 diopters on this lens would be fantastic. Well, who else can do that? A soft toric lens is not going to give you that stability. It wiggles and you've got crap vision, right? Maybe that patient needs to be switched into a scleral lens, a SynergEyes VS lens if they have too much. We have a question about, patients who have higher order aberrations because of RK. First of all, I would recommend that this lens not be used on irregular corneas at all. This lens is designed for the regular cornea. If you have an irregular cornea, post-surgical or disease-induced, use either the Ultra Health lens. We do have some patients doctors who use Duet off-label with great success, but I would recommend the Ultra Health or switching over to the SynergEyes VS if that's the situation. So, any other closing comments for you guys?
Just say, don't be afraid to fit this lens. Like I think Erin and I have both shown you that it can be used pretty effectively with minimal headache. So this is one of my go-to lenses, and I don't use it for the patient that has tried everything else and, needs a miracle. This is first line therapy for a lot of patients in my practice.
Agreed. And, just say the next few days in clinic, be watching for the picky patients, the people who, appreciate the fine details. Those are the home runs on this lens.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much, you guys, for joining us. And as we promised, for those who stuck around to the end, all you have to do is enter your name and email onto the chat box, and you can win a chance to free annual supply of SynergEyes ID. So we're going to pick 5 of you lucky winners out there. So if you could start adding into that chat box. I'm going to see those numbers go up, and it'll give you. There's nothing to invest. You don't have to get any trial lenses. It's all out. It's all for you to share with a patient, share it with a staff member, share it on yourself. If you don't get those patients in the door tomorrow, hopefully they will come in. Remember, everybody's a candidate. They don't have to be an astigmat, right? Everybody's going to become a presbyope at some point, right? And anybody who just wants to be what we call vision enthusiasts, and they're just sick of their vision and their multifocal lenses, that it's not as clear as they'd like it to be. The other thing is, always remember this too. Patients don't have to wear just one type of lens. There are many patients who wear hybrid lenses when they want to see. When they're at their kids' concerts, they go to a show, they're at a game or something, and they want really fine-tuned vision. And then maybe when they're sitting out at the pool or hanging out, and they could put on their daily disposables for that option there too. So keep those in mind. I'd like to thank Dr. Tucker and Dr. McNulty for sharing their experience with them. I'd like to thank them for being so honest and upfront with you, and letting you know that it is something they do in their daily practice, and that they are wearers too. So you saw Ashley put that lens in and out, and she got a lot of balls for doing that. So thank you. So we'll hope to see you again soon. Again, please look at that chat room, and for any links that you might have, feel free to contact us. I think I answered all of the questions. And again, you can file insurance. That was the last question we had. These can be, these are covered by many insurance providers. I can't speak to each one of them, but for medical necessity, if they fit the criteria, this is a great option. I think we showed at least a couple patients today that would have fit in the medically necessary criteria for that. So definitely there is different insurers have different what they pay for, but it definitely is a lens that you could use. So thank you, everybody. And I'm going to leave you, show you our video one more time. Some of you are probably in it because we did go ask practitioners who are fitting ID to send us some pictures. So
imagine a contact lens that is individually designed for your patient and personalized to their unique ocular anatomy. Introducing a breakthrough in hybrid contact lens design.
This is where we start dancing.
ID. Individually designed for premium performance. With SynergEyes ID, you have the ability to provide a lens modality that is suitable for the continuum of refractive error, regardless of age or disease.
Brian Dembo.
And your patients won't have to compromise their vision due to an undiscovered astigmatism or from lens instability. No longer will your office spend time applying trial lenses on patients, as SynergEyes ID is empirically fit. And the result is a lens that is individually crafted and scientifically proven to meet the specific visual and physical needs of your patient. With SynergEyes ID, your practice is supported by the technically advanced SynergEyes clinical team, available to assist you as needed at every stage of the fitting process to ensure that a lens is created for your patient that you can confidently say is designed just for you. Your practice efficiencies are then further enhanced with a comprehensive array of SynergEyes tools and information that educate your patients on proper lens application and removal, as well as handling and care. Imagine a world
Jack,
where you
that's
have
gonna
the
be-
time to really connect with and partner with your patients about their eye
that's
health,
me.
treatment options, and care, involving
great
them in a
pop.
way that solidifies the doctor-patient relationship, improves
Christine
overall
Send,
care,
Dr.
and
Noyes,
reaffirms
Marcus
that you
Noyes.
are with them and part
Dr.
of their
Stacy
vision journey.
Zapkowski.
Imagine SynergEyes ID.
Take care. Good night, everybody.